One of the funnest things about the rewilding process is that we get to examine a lot of things that we consider to be reality, hard and fast reality, and discover that they may not be as hard and fast as we once believed. Time is one of those things that we have all been conditioned to think of in a very linear and objective way. We all know that there are 24 hours in a day. And each of those hours is made up of 60 minutes. And each of those 60 minutes made up of 60 seconds. And that is objective time. But the truth is that reality isn't all that objective. Take wine, for instance. Whether you're a foodie or not, hopefully this will speak to you. A wine's flavor can be described in terms of aroma compounds. And these are measurable chemical compounds that would give you those hints of cherry and oak, strawberry, that you'll find written up on the backs of wines. The objective reality is the chemical compounds that make up these specific scents or aromas, which we interpret as taste. But the subjective reality is that no matter how nice that description of the wine is, you may not like its flavor. Time is the same way. There's objective time made up of all those units. But the subjective reality of time, the one we actually experience, the one that actually matters, is much, much different. If you're a woods person, you've probably felt this yourself. Even in regular civilized life, we can experience this. But especially in the woods, we often get to experience the lengthening of time. For me, I can remember nights when it was too hot, mosquitoes were intense, and I was watching the moon cross the sky, and it took like a week for morning to come. In school, for instance, most of us have experienced how long it can take for that clock to reach the next hour. Conversely, most of us have experienced those times when time flies and the day just disappears, the week just disappears. As we get older, most of us begin to describe the years flying by, and it seems that time inevitably speeds up and gets faster and faster and faster. So it becomes clear that subjectively, our perception of time can be that time goes very fast or that time goes very slow. And notice that in our culture, we're always trying to expand lifetimes, right? We make a big deal that we increase the average lifespan from 60 years to 70 years to 80 years. And we think of that as a very good thing, that we're living longer. But we actually can increase. That's just an objective measurement. The reality is that subjectively, most of those people are feeling their life just go by. The days, the weeks, the months, the years start flying by. So adding 10 years onto your life maybe isn't the great reward that it looks like on the outside. However, if we can master the art of slowing down our perception of time so that time dilates and expands, we can live a much shorter life and still live subjectively much more life than if we had lived twice as long. If we combine a lengthier life, a lengthier objective life, with a lengthier subjective life, that's where we can start to feel that we live multiple lifetimes in just this one life that we have here. So today I'm going to share 3 techniques for slowing down your perception of time. How it works is rather simple, actually. Time speeds up in direct relation to our lack of mindfulness, or how much we're running on autopilot. When we're distracted and we're trying to get stuff done and we're rushing, time flies by. We hardly notice life passing. It's as if we're just handing out our life to all these tasks that need to be done. And if we get in the habit of that, we start doing it more and more and more. Past our teen years, our early adult years, middle age, and then we get to that point where we're like, wow, I'm looking kind of old, gray and getting lines, and where'd my life go? On the flip side, life slows down in direct relationship to how much mindfulness we have in our life, or how much we can avoid going into that default autopilot state. So here are those 3 techniques. The first one was first and perhaps bestly summarized by my wife, Rebecca, when she said one day, "Never rush that which must be done quickly." Never rush that which must be done quickly. And recently, a student of mine who's in his 80s, he said a maxim that I've lived by my whole life is never hurry. They're both saying the same thing. And what they're noticing is that when we start to rush, everything falls apart. Our time speeds up for us, subjectively. And so, even though we have a list of 10 things and we're rushing to get it done, we get to the end of the day and we find that we've only crossed 6 of them off of the list. And by the way, we've usually added a couple more onto the list. Rushing is a state of distraction. And so, it's not just catching ourselves in that time when we're feeling, I gotta get stuff done. But it's starting to notice our tendency to always be in a state of hurry or rush. That we have this list of things to do and we've got to get it done. The fact is that usually we don't have to be as rushed as we think we are. Sometimes there's a time when we need to be someplace. But the odd thing is that when we stop trying to rush and get there, we're actually able to focus fully on the task at hand and are able to arrive at the destination at the allotted time much more efficiently. Rushing is scattered energy, and it takes us out of the present moment, whether we're driving or trying to organize some things for a meeting or get together all of our stuff for that backpacking trip. Do we really have to be going as fast as we think? For me in my life, a place that this comes into play a lot is with children. And when I'm trying to have a discussion with Rebecca and we're talking about something important, and then one of our young daughters purposefully or inadvertently interrupts the conversation we're trying to have. And so it might be that our oldest daughter really wants to tell us something. It might be that our younger daughter falls. She's just learning to walk and bumps her head a little bit and starts crying. It's very easy to feel like, look, we're trying to have a conversation, and with the 2 kids we don't get that much time to actually talk. And can that wait? And then we feel interrupted, and we have that sense of rushingness. But we found over and over again that if we just stop and listen to what our daughter has to tell us, that conversation we were having it's not going to go anywhere. And in fact, our conversation becomes richer and deeper because it has these lovely pauses and it has this space in it. When often, as we know, when we're talking to our spouse and we're trying to hash through something, that can start to get a feeling of rushedness, where we're just kind of pushing through and trying to figure everything out, and we stop thinking creatively or really paying attention to each other. Number 2 is to take breaks that you don't have time for. And this one is really tough for a lot of people because it asks us to stop. When we're rushing and we feel ourselves in that fast forward momentum feeling, it asks us to stop and do something else. And so this can be as radical as you're trying to get everything together for that backpacking trip, and you know your friends are waiting and you're just getting frustrated, and that's when you stop and you go for a 5-minute walk and you just enjoy the clouds in the sky and the birds singing. And when you come back to that task, guess what? You're relaxed, you're efficient, you're probably going to get packed up faster than you would have if you had continued to push through. And likely as not, you'll discover when you meet your friends that they're running a little bit late as well. If time is super pressed, and for whatever reason the world is going to explode if you don't get there in 10 minutes, your break doesn't have to be a 5-minute walk. It can be as simple as stopping, setting everything down, and taking one deep, long breath. And when you take that one deep, long breath, you'll gather back up your energies, you'll relax, and I can promise you, you will be more efficient and faster if you're not rushing. It goes back to Rebecca's saying, never rush that which must be done quickly. You see it at work when in an emergency situation where the doctor or the EMT comes upon that emergency and they're relaxed and they move slowly, as opposed to somebody who comes and they're panicking and they're rushed and fumbling around. Who would you want there when it was your life on the line? Number 3 is the most difficult of all. And it's a technique that leads us, it's really more than a technique. It's asking us to open up a whole new door in our life. Number 3 is to get off of autopilot. Running on autopilot is the default for most of us in our culture. And it doesn't do us any favors at all. When we're on autopilot, we're inefficient. We make mistakes. We don't notice or savor or enjoy the experiences of life that are occurring around us in every moment. Being on autopilot is something that we learn and we cultivate in our lives through watching a lot of media that allows our brain to just kind of turn into tapioca pudding and just be on spectator mode all the time, not truly participating. Autopilot comes from our lifestyles that are always stressing these demands, these goals, pushing on to the next thing, instead of stopping to appreciate or notice what we currently have. This being on autopilot is just bad news. In addition to all that, it's stressful. It's releasing high levels of cortisol into our system, and it's unhealthy. It just is not good for our bodies. It's not good for our minds. It's not good for our emotions. As we get older, we get so habitualized into that autopilot that we've been unknowingly cultivating that life starts to slip by unnoticed, and time speeds up and speeds up and speeds up. If we can stop that autopilot in its tracks, even discard it, our whole life shifts. Time slows down, our relationships change and become much stronger and healthier. Our physical health shifts because now we're starting to release a lot of positive, good chemicals into our body instead of overloading on stress hormones. Our life just takes on a new deliciousness. How do we turn off the autopilot? It means we have to start cultivating mindfulness, being present moment. And that means starting to become aware of our senses, what we're actually experiencing in the world around us, and not just experiencing in our mental imagery. So, here's one thing you can do to start to cultivate more mindfulness. Okay, here it is. All I'm going to ask you to do is to taste something. And I mean really taste it. And so, it might be one bite of your meal tonight. It might be a square of chocolate. It might be a couple leaves of wood sorrel. And whatever this food is that you choose, take it and hold it in your hand and really become sensuously aware of it. Look at it, see what it looks like, feel its texture, smell it, and when you put it onto your lips and into your mouth, taste it. Feel its texture. Really experience it. This is a very simple, basic exercise, but it tunes us in to our senses. And it asks us to take an everyday moment and to really become aware of it. You don't just have to do that with things that you taste. You can do that when you're looking into a loved one's eyes, and you can try to see the color of their eyes like you've never seen it before. You can do it when you hear a bird singing, that chickadee up there in the tree. And really hear that sound. Life is full of these moments. And if you start to seize some of them out of your daily experience, begin with 1 or 2 a day, and then add them on. This will start to enrich your life like nothing else. We can spend our time trying to get people to like us, trying to earn more money. That's not going to do half as much to enrich our lives as hearing that bird song, as tasting the food that you're eating, of seeing the eyes of the person that you're looking at, that you're looking into. Seize a few moments out of life and see what happens. As always, I would love to hear your experiences with any of this, and thank you for watching. I hope this gives you some new tools for shifting your perception of time and starting to cultivate more present moment mindfulness and awareness in your life.